Hey, old sunshine. Man, we're still having fun on this saw. What I've got is a bunch of different exhausts here. I tested 6 versions here for this video. I'm not going to ask you to sit through the dynos of each one of them. I'm going to show you one dyno test and one heat pull, because we went to the point of losing power, so we know where the sweet spot's at on each one of these cans and styles. And we've documented those real well with, we just did exhaust temperatures on this one and head temperature. We're documenting all that along with horsepower and an RPM range, and I've got those charted out. So I come up with a cut factor to kind of judge these against each other. They may not be the peak horsepower, but they may pull better in there, if that makes sense. Meaning one of them may peak out at 4.2 horsepower at 9,500 RPMs, and another one may peak out just a little bit less, but at 10.2, let's say, pick up 600-700 RPMs. Well, that saw theoretically cut faster. So we've got all that in the charts at the end, and it's going to be a lot of results in this one. And I want you guys to let me know what you think of those results. You know, you can take and read different numbers different ways, or think, well, this might mean this, or this might mean that. It's what correlates to one another. So I appreciate you guys' feedback. We've tried over 20 different muffler combinations and got to the point of each different style of losing power, so we know where the sweet spot was. And sure, we know we can put on a pipe and get more horsepower. I basically want a can, is what I'm working on right now. If you really want me to be honest with you, I'll probably never make it. But places like Sawfest, you know, they have a stock appearing can, which this one would be stock appearing, but it's reduced volume on the inside. There's a plate welded in there, and man, did that make some difference on some of these deals. Like Sawfest, I think they make you have a stock appearing pipe. So this here pipe would be no good, but this one here had a good cut factor on it, real good cut factor. It did what I thought it'd do, and then there was a point of getting it too short, and there was a point of getting it the right length, and that's in another video, using a heat gun. Real neat method to find your right length of pipe. And Kevin L. mentioned before, I found the right length, or what I thought was the right length, and cut it off there, and of course that was the highest horsepower. But I never went any farther and kept cutting it off to see if I lost again. We did that in this video. We've cut it off past that twice. So we'll see that. We'll see whether we can find the proper spot with just a heat gun. Neat video. Go back and see it if you haven't seen it, if you're interested. This wouldn't be a Sawfest type deal because it's hid in. It's not a stock appearing muffler. But on the other hand, this could all be shifted down and come out the side, and that hole right there, and you can still have the pipe. That could all be hid on the inside. Come from old tractor pulling days, I was always figuring out a way to cheat legally. I just wanted to use the rules to my advantage. One of them that worked out real good was the bark box style. And we had full-size cans and reduced cans on all these, and cans with baffles, guys. And one of them that worked out real good was the bark box style. You might think, well, that bark box, it wouldn't fit Sawfest rules. Well, it would if it's stock appearing, and I can fit that all under that lid. That bark box with a reduced volume can, which was a good runner, that could all be, that'd be Sawfest legal there just right quick. And guys, while I'll probably never make it to Sawfest, it's kind of fun to play by their rules here at home with my dyno and stuff like that, to see how we're doing. Over 20 different mufflers that we've tested so far, dyno results, head heat results, and exhaust temperature results. The bark box was another neat one, and that hole diameter, or that hole size there, and I've got all these volumes figured out for this particular saw. Those volumes made a difference. The square inches of hole, square inches of opening made a difference on this. We got to the point of diminishing returns, and we started losing power once I got this big. So if I want to build me another good one, I lost a little bit. It's not too loud, but I lost a little bit. So I know what size of hole to go to. I'll share that with you. I'll show you one dyno pull and one heat run, and I'll walk you through the dyno. For the people that's not been here before, I'll walk you through the numbers you're looking at on the dyno. And for those of you that don't know, let me look at my list here. This old 26, and there's dyno results for all this. We did this one step at a time. There's a whole playlist of that. There's also a whole playlist of all these muffler mods up to this point, and there's some neat results in there along the way. The coolest one, I think, is finding the proper length on a pipe. Easy. Don't even use math. We did the base gasket, see what we gained there. We did the transfers, just the lower transfers, seeing what we gained there. All these are dyno tested. Then we did the intake, then we did the exhaust. I will back up and say it did have a muffler mod on this stock muffler for all those, because it's too restrictive. You can't make use of any of that stuff without doing a muffler mod, in my opinion. Then we reshaped the upper transfers, and man, did that make a difference. You might want to check that out. Like I say, it's all in the build. Of course, the highest one we had was no air filters, and we haven't really done anything with the air filter on here. But we went from about 3.2 horsepower with this thing with a stock overbore, the 4.7 millimeter. We went from 3.2 horsepower there to about 4.7 with what we've done. And I've not tried the best exhaust without the air filter yet. We might be pushing 5 horse. We're not to that point yet. We'll do that one of these days. Here in the near future, on the outside of it, it's got some real neat stuff coming up. We're going to do the timing on it, see what we gain there. And along with timing, I want to do some spark plug stuff. Kevin L., he'll get credit for complaining at me because I didn't shorten the exhaust past where it didn't work anymore, or where I got the most horsepower. We've shortened it past there now. Archer, he's working on some stuff. He wanted exhaust temperatures. We got him some exhaust temperatures. Magoot, I don't remember his numbers, but Magoot suggested, hey, I think it was him that wanted a side gap spark plug, which is kind of a neat deal. And you guys know what a normal spark plug looks like, of course. Side gap, they bend this electrode off to the side or cut it off short. It makes me a little bit nervous to do that, to be honest about it, because the reason it makes me nervous, I had a 362 I built for a guy, and it was mediocre. And that's all. He straight gassed it. He didn't want it hopped up bad. I did a little bit of cleanup in it. I thought it should have run better in stock. Man, it just didn't. He said it run as good as it ever did. And I'd never run one before, so I didn't know what it was supposed to do. He come back to me a couple weeks ago and said, man, that saw really runs good now. I said, oh yeah, what did he do? He said, I changed the spark plug. That electrode was rattling up and down. The only thing holding that thing from beating the hole in the top of the cylinder was that ground electrode was holding it in. It wouldn't let it go. It was vibrating back and forth and causing a spark. It was still sparking some, but anyhow, I digress. It makes me a little bit nervous, but I did side gap a spark plug. It's gapped up. We're going to try that here in the near future. What I really like better than that, because I'm afraid of losing that electrode, we got us a spark plug with no electrode on it. That's another deal. We'll talk about that. And then I've modified one of those spark plugs even better for a chainsaw. That's coming up shortly. Ignition timing's coming up shortly. We're going to go to the single ring, and we got some tests on that. That's going to incorporate real good into our heat tests on the cylinder. And I've started documenting what it takes to turn this saw over. So we're going to see what the single ring will gain us. That's going to make a neat video. And then after that, we'll probably open this saw back up, and guys, jump in there, tell me what you want to see, because I take suggestions. I like you guys' suggestions. It gets my brain to working. We'll get this gommed up, and we'll tear back into the inside and see what we want to do on the intake and exhaust and transfers. If you guys want to see something different on there, want me to try, we'll go at it. And at some point, we'll just call this one as a done firewood build, and I think we're going to get us a different saw to really just play with and have different cylinders and stuff. I've got this in here plumb about wore out. I'm waiting on that muffler's been on and off there probably 30 or 40 times. Threads are getting pretty cruddy, so I'm waiting on some thread inserts, helicoil type things. Show you one dyno run, one heat pull, and I'm gonna show you a bunch of charts. That's what the main part of this and here's gonna be about today. If you guys like numbers, or if you just want to find out which one's best, this is gonna be the one for you. Okay, going to give a reminder for the people that's already found the channel and give them a little bit of new information we've got here. And the people that's just found the channel, we welcome you. Appreciate it. If you haven't, look down in the comments. Man, there's some good people down there. Good, friendly place to be. Just a nice place to hang out. We're doing chainsaws again today. It's not always. If you can stand it, you may watch me curing bacon or just doing any other thing. But anyhow, without further ado, first off, you guys are going to be seeing the numbers right here from this cell phone. It records the top number in the blue. That's off my scale. Measures foot-pounds of torque, but it's taking a big sample and turning it small. You'll approximately, taking out of consideration weather, which I can't tell you what that is from time to time, every time. Around, if you take that number there, the top one in blue, and times that point by 0.159, will get you real close to foot-pounds. The green one here is RPMs. That's only reading 7/10 of the RPMs due to there's two magnets on the input shaft, the gear reduction 24/7. So it calculates it all out in my spreadsheet, but what you guys will see is the raw numbers. That reads 7/10. So 7,000 equals 10,000 on the saw. Then we got two thermometers here. The red on top of both of them is ambient temperature. It's 83 degrees right now on one, 81.5 on the other, guys. So this isn't scientific, but it's the best I can do with what I got for $9.99 or whatever I put in them in. Those run into a thermocouple, guys. This top one you see is running into, and I might get them switched around sometimes, but that's running into the thermocouple in the head of this saw, in the jug of this saw, taking temperature right out of that saw's top, right where the decomp plug goes. The second one, the bottom one, is reading exhaust temperature. Guys, you guys sit right here whenever I'm watching. I'll throw those numbers up there in the top corner. And just so the people that just found the channel know, the general consensus, and it can change, guys. Just because you just found me don't mean your opinion ain't as valid as somebody's been here since the get-go. Speak of that, hello, Farmless Farmer. Oh, you guys, oh, shucks. And I don't want to start naming names. Man, I love y'all. But anyhow, like today, it's going to have 6 dyno runs on this, what I'm getting ready to show you on Muffler Mod testing. I'm not going to show you every run. I'll probably put you here and show you one run. I think I'll put you here right now. What we have is the bark box, enlarged hole on a reduced volume can. And I think it's going to be our winner. And it's going to sound good, so I'll put you guys right here. Reduced volume bark box. Okay, everybody, we've got 3 or 4 charts here for you, or a few, 3 different kinds. First thing we got the spreadsheet with all the different muffler mods we've done so far, and their horsepowers, and what RPM they was. That was max horsepower, and the RPM at which it pulled the maximum horsepower. I multiplied those together to come up with a cut factor. We'll get to that. We've also got heat charts today. We've got exhaust temp, and we've also got cylinder temp, which I think is going to be pretty neat. We've got the runs of each of the muffler mods. We've got 3 different lids and 2 different cans, so there's pairs of each one. I did reduced volume and regular can of each of the 3 lids. You'll see them. I've got them color coded. I think those will be neat. Let's start off with a horsepower chart. Now on each one of these, the yellow line is going to be common. That's where we started out moons ago before any modifications. Just cylinder, no base gasket. The purple line is going to be the highest that we've reached with any of these type lids. This is the Bark Blocks clone lid you're seeing. The red and the blue lines are what we've done today, and we've lost horsepower over the maximum we gained on the Bark Box. We went to where we started losing horsepower, which that's what we wanted to do to know we reached the highest. Blue line, like I say, is the full size can. The red being reduced. On the Bark Box, it's still like reduced volume. It hung in there pretty good. That hole on that one is 0.58 square inches now. We'll talk about that when we get the other chart. The purple line, which was our maximum, it was actually smaller. Made the outlet a little bit bigger, and we lost horsepower, RPMs. We lost her basically all the way across the line. Speaking of across the board, this chart here starts off at 12,500 RPMs, and I pull it down to about 5,500. And of course, this chart has to show from about 1.2 to catch the foot-pounds up to. I make this just to where it'll catch the highest torque, so it spreads this out the best I can. Saying that, what we're really concerned about is this area here on the horsepower. So the second chart, it starts at 12,000 and pulls down to 8,000. Sure, it pulls down, but here's where you're going to be cutting at, and it spreads this out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Yellow line, of course, is a factory or the stock one we had, and purple line's the best Bark Box we had today. Like I say, reduced volume still showing good, and the full size can, it didn't do too bad. 4.18 horsepower at 10,170 something, and the reduced volume was 4.36 horsepower at 9823. So we lost some RPMs for the peak, but we was over it on the reduced, so it really doesn't bother us that we lost RPMs on the peak. The peak was here, but we were still above it. We were still above that one here, but the smaller hole actually beat us the whole way through. That was the Bark Box. The pipe one we did is, if you guys remember that video, man, that was an awesome video. A lot of people liked it. If you haven't seen it, go back and look at it. It was how to find the correct length of pipe. I'll try to link it in here if I can. Anyhow, this purple line was at, that pipe was at 3.25 inches. The pipe did not like the reduced volume as well. This pipe was cut off to 2 3/4 inches now, which was shorter than what we expected it to be, and it did just what I expected it to do. Right here is where I expected the best horsepower to be with thermometer, and it worked out, and that was so. Pipe, it likes a bigger can. The reduced volume, it lost just all the way across the board. I'm going to bring it down to the bigger scale and keep talking along the same lines. The reduced volume, it lost all the way across the board in here in the cutting range. The full size can, not reduced, it didn't do too bad, but it didn't do as good as the pipe here. This chart here is the lid, and boy, they're awful close together up here. The purple line, of course, is the highest I ever had, and that was 3/4 inch hole. And the RPM was it was 4.27 at 10,046 RPMs. Reduced volume wasn't much lower than that on the horsepower, 600ths, but it picked up 200 RPM, so it was only above it right in here. But for the most part, I would say that smaller hole is going to work better than this hole, and I'll get you those measurements here in a minute. Go down to the other chart, spread them out a little bit. and they're still pretty tight. The reduced volume again worked good on this hole here, or on this lid with a hole. The reduced volume beat the full size can. This hole here is a little bit smaller. It didn't quite peak out as tall, but it actually came to work later and stayed on for overtime over the one that did the max horsepower. And that's the reduced volume with a little over 7/8 hole. There's the horsepower we got. Let's check this out and then we'll get on to the heat. And I think the heat's got some neat stuff. I'm going to take and put these in order for you right quick, from most horsepower to least horsepower. Okay? And actually, I misspoke. It's not necessarily the most horsepower. See, like here's one at 4.25 horsepower at 9883. This one had 1/10 less horsepower, but picked up 300 RPMs. And I think they'll saw similar. We get up here to 4.07 horsepower, but we've picked up 800 RPMs, and I really think that one will saw faster, and that's where we come up with a cut factor. I took horsepower times RPM, and that just gives us an arbitrary number that I can put in order out here. The reduced volume pipe was cut off before the hot spot, which was right, like I say, that's in that other video, shows you where to cut it off. Out of all the pipes we've built so far, that one's got the best cut factor. I'm not sure that one wouldn't be the fastest pipe out there. We might put them in the wood one of these days and let it go, and confirm my theory on the cut factor. But it was still a decent horsepower, but it was up there at a pretty good RPM. And then the next one was the next length shorter of a pipe. And if you look over here, my pipe size is 0.61 inside diameter. It was 3.75 inches, the metric equivalent's over here, and 3.25 inches was the next best one. The old long pipe, which if you guys remember that, I started out goofy, it was 9 inches long, and it did okay. The next thing we did was the bark box. It is a reduced volume bark box, and you'll see that the square inches of hole, or the square centimeters, it was 0.4 square inches, 2.58 square centimeters. That was the size of that hole. The next one down was the reduced, the aftermarket lid with a hole in it, and that was 0.86 hole, which gave less horsepower. The bigger hole, 22 millimeter, 0.58 square inches and 0.44 square inches. 0.44 square inches gave more horsepower, but 200 less on the RPMs. Don't let the dyno rule your day. I think this in here will outcut it. And then we got down to the reduced volume bark box with the large hole. It liked a 2.58 square centimeter hole better than a 3.74 or a 0.4 versus 0.58. We got too much volume here, and yeah, she started going down. You guys can stop this and look at the rest of it. I'll quit rambling on, but you can see what we're doing. There's the hole size in inches and centimeters. There's the area in square inches, square centimeters. There's the pipe size, and there's the cubic inches of the pipe, meaning the volume of the pipe, or the cubic centimeters of the pipe, the volume of the pipe. So you guys can look at that and see. You guys can you're welcome to stop that and go over it. We're going to move on to the heat. Now the first heat we do, what we do is we pull this saw down to 10,000 RPMs at whatever load it will handle for 1 minute. And what I do is I do my dyno run. The saw gets up, and it's usually up over 275 degrees. When I'm done with my dyno run, I let it cool down. When it cools down to about 260 something, that'll give me a couple of degrees to play with. I rev the saw back up, pull it down to 10,000 at 275 degrees. I start my 1 minute timer and I let it climb. And so the green line, I've color coded these. The two orange lines go together, these two brownish lines go together, and the two greenish lines go together. The two green lines are the pipes, regular can and reduced volume can. The orange lines, regular can on the big hole lid and reduced volume, and so on and so forth. You'll see on the top of the chart here on what that each one of these pulled horsepower wise at 10,000 RPMs. The reduced volume bark box pulled the best pull at 10,000 RPM. We expected that to happen. We know that's a pretty good deal. Reduced volume big hole was the second best, and so on and so forth. They all started at 275 degrees, but after 1 minute, like the full-size can with the big hole, it didn't like that as much. It was lower horsepower than some, and it was the most heat. The reduced volume as a whole put out more heat, except for the cans. The snipe pipe, it liked the full-size can better. We know that, and it liked it here better at 10,000 RPMs. But it cooled the best. And by snipe pipe, that was the pipe that was cut off, again, 2.75 inches long. That pipe has always cooled the best. I like that. You guys can study this chart here a little bit. These three here's the full-size can. Those are reduced volume and are color-coded to go the same. I'll let you guys keep looking at that. But I think we got a clear winner right here with the reduced volume bark box again. After that, we'll come up here to exhaust temp. Archer, I think you'll like this. They're all over the place a little bit, but they're within a range. I forgot to mention it. The temperatures, that decimal, just ignore that decimal where it says 3.97. That's 397 degrees Fahrenheit, 549 degrees Fahrenheit. I had to put the decimal in there so this chart would, so they'd be close together and they'd all fit on the same chart. Again, they're paired up with colors. The bark box here in the two purple lines, the can with the big hole is the orange lines, and the pipe is the green lines. Pretty well the least horsepower on the pipe, and the exhaust temp was up, and that's reduced volume. That pipe does not like reduced volume. Lowest horsepower and about the highest heat. And like I talked about a while ago, I let the saw head temperature cool down to below 275. But like this can with the big hole, it cooled better. The head temp was down, but you notice all these started at a different place. That's how much difference there was in how the exhaust temperature cooled down in between cuts. So the big can, full-size can with the big hole, it cooled one of the best. Wasn't no slouch. We just barely missed 4 horse, and the top's 4.17. So we lost 0.2 of a. We saved over 100 degrees off exhaust temperature. We started out, it cooled off 100 degrees. That's a lot. 100 degrees Fahrenheit's a lot. We cooled 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So guys, you can sit here and go back through and study any one of those charts you can. Enter any questions or comments or anything down there in the comments. If you haven't before, guys, there's a lot of good people down there, and I'm not a bit opposed to having people confront my ideas as bad, or man, you guys get me to scratching my head sometimes, and I love it, because let's face it, I'm a hack. I ain't good at any of it, but I muddle around. I think we've built ourselves a nice community here. There's a lot of good exchange of ideas going on down the bottom, and they've always been respectful. Everybody don't necessarily agree with everybody, but it's always respectful disagreement or suggestions, and I really like that. And ideas of different things, of what ifs. Man, it's a good place. And if nothing else, be like old George Fernandez, old mountain man. Get in there and just tell me a story. Or old Salt Rock, get in there and just tell everybody hi. And you know, there's some good people down in there that's just commenting and likes what we're doing here, even if they don't understand the saws. And I love that too. So guys, appreciate it. If I earned it, give it a thumbs up, like it. If you haven't, consider subscribing, because we got some more stuff coming up I think you'll like. Thank you.